this is my title of this presentation, Against Necropolitics, Prolegomena to Deconstruction and Reconstruction of Medical Anthropology in situ. This is the QR code of my web pages. Okay. So this is a summary, and that's presented in the resume of the academic meeting. So we omit of these messages. So you can refer in abstract. Okay, so this is a storylines of my presentations. So first of all, what is necropolitics? Necropolitics is a concept of the cultural politics proposed by Achille Mbembe, drawing inspiration from biopolitics. Necropolitics is a theory concerning the exercise of cultural, social, and political power determine how certain people live and how others must die. Mbembe is a Cameroon historian, political theorist, and intellectual who served as research professor of history and political science at West Institute for Socioeconomic Research at the University of the Witwatersrand. So, relating with necropolitics, we remind Michel Foucault's of biopolitics. No, Michel Foucault argues that power has shifted from. So the necropolitics power has shifted from that, as Michel Foucault mentioned, kill and let to lie. And Achille Mbembe said one of keep life of the condemned to death. Achille Mbembe's necropolitics would likely take on the form of condemned to death completely. So the meaning of against my titles, against necropolitics. Necropolitics refer to a political system that forces to dead to remain silent. Medical anthropology in the context of the necropolitics is an academic endeavor that breaks up the silence of the dead and listen to their voices through field work. So this is a schematic, the diagram of the biopolitical world and necropolitical world that medical anthropologists should treat in. So first of all, we remind the triangulations relating with anthropology in situ or medical anthropology in situ. Anthropology in situ refers to research described through traditional ethnographic method involving field work conducted on site. On site meaning of the Latin word in situ. In addition to recognizing these differences, that means of anthropology's work in field site and back to their office and to make or to write ethnographic writing. So that means the differences. Medical anthropology incorporates another point of reference, biomedical universalism. So that means of the third perspective. So I think it's proper to say the terminology triangulation of the three analytical perspectives. Researchers can not only understand the subject, culture, but also adopt perspective that relativize biomedical universities. So with relating was anthropology in situ, I remind of the very important theoretical apparatus, local biology, that Dr. Margaret Mead mentioned. Despite adopting this triangulation approach, many medical anthropologists focus exclusively on analyzing culture of their research subject from relativist perspectives. So what is act of deconstruction of medical anthropologists? Borrowing Jacques Derrida's concept of anthropology in situ is critically understood in the light of Jacques Derrida's ideas of deconstruction and difference, the critique of metaphysics of presence. So that means of the ethnography reconstruct and deconstruct the presence of what researchers has seen and heard to prove that researchers' own existence. So the same relating with the deconstruction of medical anthropologists, I borrow another theoretical apparatus of critique of ethnographic present, borrowing of his book, The Time and the Other, by Dr. Johannes Fabians. No? So critics of modern anthropology point out of this presence of described using presence of tense of grammatical verbs concept of referred as the ethnographic present, as Johannes Fabian criticizes, while researchers' lives within a changing flow of time and the other, the subject of the studies becomes fixed in time and space, existing merely as specimens. So, relating of these theoretical apparatus, I summarize my research subject of three areas. One is the repatriation of human remains. Two is the Nazi eugenics history, medical history of Nazi eugenics, and the pro-vaccine and anti-vaccine debates in the time of the pandemic era. Okay, first of all, I conducted or the active participant researches on the repatriation of human remains. No, the country people in former colonies and the indigenous community around the world of the ranching campaign demanding the return artifacts, human remains, and burial goods from ancient types, ancestral sites that are preserved in museums and universities. Here, we focus on the movement of repatriation of human remains. Museum and the university emphasizes the academic values of human remains in their custody while ignoring colonial nature of the research. On the other hand, indigenous people emphasizing that the absence of the remains leaves ancestral worship, ritual, and incomplete, and highlights the spiritual depth descendant owed to their ancestors. Scientists criticize the indigenous side of being unscientific, while indigenous side accuses scientists of being lost too much of their humanities. So the second example of the medical history of Nazi eugenics. So eugenics, the terminology of eugenics invented by Francis Galton in 1883. Despite widespread spread criticism, eugenics gained support from both capitalists and socialists, except religious devotees and theologians. And in European countries and the United States, even though United States, it began with sterilization of the people with genetic disorder and mental disabilities. In the United States, system of the registering sterilizations record has launched on the experimental basis by the early 20th centuries. Britain and the United States had become the leading nation of this field, birth of biomedical state. It's well known that Nazis escalated from sterilization of the mentally ill to policy-driven euthanasia, and with the strong support funding medical professions and bureaucrats carried out policy of extermination against the Jews. We can say the Holocaust. Following World War II, during Allied trials of Nazi war criminals, medical ethics were established, culminating in the Nuremberg Code and later the World Medical Association's Declaration of Helsinki. The third example of my experience is the COVID-19 pandemic, which lasted from December 2019 and to May 2023, had a significant impact on people's trust, social medicine, and their behavior in avoiding infectious disease worldwide. Among those who survived, the conflict between pro-vaccine and anti-vaccine groups has caused social divisions, while the anti-vaccine movement had already existed since in the 1970s, primarily developed nations. The COVID-19 versions spread globally, much like a pandemic itself. This spread is not unrelated to the explosive proliferation of social media since the 21st centuries. International organizations concerned about the harmful effect of anti-vaccine movement have pointed out the problem of global spread of the misinformation, a phenomenon they termed disinfodemic. The COVID-19 vaccine sparked the global debate between individual rights and autonomy on the other hand, and the argument for social defense on the other. However, the opportunity to deepen this debate had faded along with the waning on the COVID-19 pandemic. So my concluding remarks of the 4 point. 1, expand the focus of ethnography beyond the living who are subjected of Achille Mbembe's researches. Approaches include the spiritual being of the dead in the afterlife and beyond. Drawing on Johannes Fabian's research approaches becomes conscious of how the past and the future and incorporated into the spatial temporal framework of the society we are investigating, from the hypothetical universe to a concrete multiverse. 3, drawing on Margaret Rock's research's approaches, we must reclaim the relativism that recognizes how the universal global general perspective of biomedicine is, in fact, form of ethnic or folk medicine depends on biomedical culture. 4. Learning from the lesson that medical ethics always emerges retrospectively from moral misconduct in research. Medical anthropology must also reflectively relearn from past imperfection and, in collaboration with other researchers, construct new ethical principles for medical anthropologists. So this is the same, the summary of my presentation. You can refer to my abstract of the virtual procedures. So this is a bibliography of my researches. Thank you for listening, and see you on June 28 in Seoul, Korea, at a meeting of the East Asian Medical Anthropology Network, EMAN. To be continued, against necropolitics 2, anthropological zombie, or anthropology as zombie existence. So this QR code is my next web pages of anthropology of necropolitics. Thank you for listening.